Hi everyone, and welcome to my process video for my 2019 Project Life album. I am working on week 31 in this spread using almost exclusively the Ali Edwards August 2019 Digital Stories by the Month kit. I thought I would show you a little bit about how, after I use these elements on my computer in Photoshop and print them off, how I pull the spread together. So you'll see in the beginning of the video, I actually use my Passion Planner to plan out what my spreads will look like. I don't always do this, but I find it helpful to do it while I'm working with the digital kits because it's a little bit harder to visualize. You know, when you have the physical products, you can kind of lay that all out and look at it. So I sketch that out ahead of time so I know a little bit about kind of how I want to plan out what this week looks like. And then I also print out a preview of the kit so I can see all of the journal cards, the stamp set, and the chipboard pieces. So I always start with the title card, which is in the middle row on the farthest left-hand pocket. And for this week, I used my Mega date stamp. I love using this date stamp. My only qualm is that it is so hard to turn the numbers that I end up having to use my sleeve to protect my hand. But that's the only thing. Otherwise, I totally love it, and I like the big, bold look that it provides. You'll notice in a lot of these cards that I ended up changing the color scheme, which is one of the huge perks of having the digital kit. You're able to modify these cards to fit the color scheme that you're going for. And so I really wanted to stick with a yellow, pink, and teal color scheme throughout the week. And so on this particular card with the ovals, I ended up changing a lot of those colors. And I also did that on the card that says the Do Your Best card, the quote from Maya Angelou, which I love. You'll notice that in this kit, it's actually rainbow, which is beautiful, but I just wanted it to match some of the other things in the spread. So I used the teal and turquoise colors. So for this card, I'm just kind of journaling a little bit about my night with my sister, adding in some different stories. I used that same stamp on that photo there, so that kind of looks cohesive. And then I printed off the Starburst 4x6 journal card, not on photo paper, but on regular paper. And I used this in a kind of like some different capacities throughout this spread. So here you'll see that I stamped good stuff on it and then punched it out with a circle. And I use it in a couple other places to kind of have it look cohesive. Okay, so here I am moving on to the right side of the spread. Again, I printed on vellum. I did this on the left-hand side with one of the quotes, but on the right-hand side, I loved this bold print that said August on it. So I printed that on vellum, and I like that both sides of the spread have the vellum element. I think it kind of ties it together. This wood veneer piece is from the August Stories by the Month kit, and it says this August story. And I used the Honeyman ink to make that yellow, which I thought would match a lot of the other elements that I have. Using the floral card from the digital kit, which is actually, it was a 3x4 card in the kit. I made it a 4x6 card to tell a little bit of a longer story about watching the presidential debates with my partner this week. To find an amper stamp, which I know that I have, but for some reason I couldn't find it. So I'm digging through my stash here. I end up settling for a plus sign because this was the span over 2 days. So I used a plus sign to put in the dates, and you'll notice that I grabbed my planner to check and verify when these debates aired. So again, I use my Passion Planner a lot to go back through and look and see what happened that week. Journaling that I've done, I use that because sometimes I get behind in my album, and so it's nice to go back and say, okay, what was I doing during week 31? And during the debates, Elizabeth Warren had this great quote about the vision that she has if she was to become president, and what our party is working towards, and what we need as a country during this particularly difficult time period. And I loved this quote that she gave. And so I ended up printing off this image from online, and I pulled out some different pink and yellow journaling cards, and I ended up using the card that says, "Love lives here." And I only wanted the love word. So I used the image to cover up the rest of that text, and it's just a good reminder that you can make the journal cards work for the stories that you want to tell. So never be afraid to cut them up, cover up things you don't want, so it can fit what you're kind of looking for. When I printed off all my pictures, I also printed off a lot of the chipboard pieces that I use kind of as embellishments. So on that picture of me and Oliver, I used that yellow banner that has kind of the starburst, and I put the date, and I stamped "Making Me So Happy." I also punched out a circle that eventually that wood veneer piece will go on top of. And I cut out some other sunbursts. I thought maybe I could use these on the photos to embellish. I ended up not using them because it looked like a little bit too much. But again, it's another example of how you can use your cards and cut them up and use them for embellishing. That picture down there in the lower right-hand corner that I'm working on right now is actually a picture of me enjoying a book. I'm reading Good and Mad right now by Rebecca Traister. And actually, it's taken me a while to get through this book because I've been savoring it, and there's so many quotes in here that I love, so I write them down and think about them a lot. So it's taken me a while to get through the book, but I actually pulled out one of my favorite quotes, and I put that in Photoshop on that story card that says "This Story," and put the quote there. And I pretty much do that with all the books that I'm reading, like one of the most impactful quotes that I read. And it's a good way to remember kind of what the book was about and what spoke to me the most. And then I printed off that card that had the 3 labels. I ended up not using it, and so I wanted to include the date from this picture, so I stamped the date on there and then ended up just using the end of that, and of course used my tiny attacher, which I'm pretty liberal with in my Project Life spreads, to adhere that. And then here I put down that punch circle on the vellum. I really like the way that turned out, and then when things look pretty much complete, I start slipping them into the pockets. I have that rainbow photo there, which is one of my favorite photos, and for a long time I was debating, do I want to stamp on it or should I just leave it because it's very pretty without anything on it. But what I do is I pull out my Stories by the Month stamps, and I pull out the August one, and I end up stamping on there with Stays on Ink, "August is," and then it has a blank. I stamped it right in the middle. I really like how it turned out. And then I pulled out my word phrase stickers because I keep all of my Stories by the Month kits together. It just helps me see everything, and I keep going back to it pretty much every week to do my Project Life spreads. So I pull out one of the sticker sheets. It might have been from July. The sticker said "The best is yet to come." I cut off the end and just used the best. So it says "August is the best." And it is really one of my favorite months. It's a month of transitions. We're heading into fall. My birthday's in August, so I thought that was pretty appropriate. So here I am trimming down the cards, getting them to fit in the pockets. You'll see on that flower photo, I also cut out one of the chipboard shapes that says "This Story" and used pop-up dots just to give it a little bit of dimension. You know, one of the things when you're working with a digital kit and you print off everything, it can seem a little one-dimensional. Sometimes your spreads look a little flat. So I always look for opportunities to add embellishments, pop things up. And here I am pulling out some star embellishments. I have a whole basket full of stars because that's one of my favorite things to use in my spreads. And this was actually from a kit from a long time ago, the Surprise Story Kit, and I pulled out the yellow stars and just stapled 3 of them in that spread. This week was a little unique in that I had a lot of pictures and a lot of stories to tell. It was just a really full week. So when this happens, I'll generally do an insert. So for this week, I did a 6x12 insert, And on the front there, you'll see a picture of me and my partner, and I'm telling a little bit of a challenging story that we've had this summer, particularly in August. And here I'm deciding what heart I want to put down here. And I ended up going with a journal card from the Journey story kit that has a quote on it that I really like. I cut the end of the heart off so it kind of interacts there with the August memories. I like the way that looks. I added the date stamp, and then pulling out my rest story kit, I stamped, I think it says, wherever you are, be all there. And I talked a little bit about where we currently are. And that's what I like about Project Life. It's a hard story to tell, but it is a part of our life. And so I like the opportunity to tell the challenging stories along with the really good stories. And there was a really good story on the back of that insert. I did a story about the organization that I work for was adopted by a company in Lincoln to support us and volunteer with us and do some different things, which was a really exciting story because they don't select very many nonprofits to support. And so I actually went to the company for like a kickoff, a breakfast celebration. And so using the templates, the 6x12 templates in Allie's shop, I created this insert with some journaling, like a column of journaling on the right-hand side, and then 3 pictures from this day. And then I stamped the date with the mega date stamp so it would kind of correspond with my title card. I want some of those elements to kind of flow through the whole spread, and I think it makes it just a little bit more cohesive. And then of course, because it's an insert, I used one of the Avery index tabs. I stamped today's story, and again, making me so happy with Allie's pink ink here, just to be able to put that tab on it. So when you're flipping through the album, you see that that is an insert. And so I slipped that into the page protector, and I really like the way this spread came together. I like the yellows and pinks and teals. I think it looks really cohesive, and I like that I got to tell some longer stories in this spread. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.